There we go.
Okay, didn't expect me to say that, did you?
No.
Yeah. But anyway, it was a very funny scene from a movie. And this is free range.
Yeah, there we go. Now we're getting to it. Finally, yes. Okay.
And this is where we talk about all kinds of things. And Scott, I'm happy.
Now, this is Scott Lemriel, and I'm standing here beside myself, if you catch my drift, looking at the body going, oh, this is interesting. Oh, I guess I'm not my body after all. What do you know about that?
That's quite a statement for most people to ingest, so to speak, that you're not your body. And they go, what?
Well, there's only one way anybody can really know that, and that's to be consciously looking at it from a distance. And people don't think they can do that because they've grown up on earth identifying with looking in the mirror and say, well, this is what I am. And I got this thing, some minister told me I had soul. That's what I got. Somewhere that I can pull out someday and all. And you know, they think this is really it, and that they've got this thing called soul that survives after death. That's something different. It is, in that it's not the body. But the thing that's given that body animation, personality, and intelligence, and emotion isn't even coming from the physical body or brain. It's being channeled into this body from a life they're living on other higher dimensions, and lives there as well. Because that thing above your head, spherical, is multidimensional and characteristic in nature and perception. And it can look into the multidimensional universe and know things on many levels. And just because people on Earth have been manipulated in no uncertain terms to forget almost everything about who they are, what they knew before they were born here, and all that kind of thing. So all they've got is faith, or what somebody teaches them from outside to believe in. But you don't dare have any real experience. Because if you start having real experiences, you're going to drop a lot of the stuff that's been brought into existence on this planet by tyrant kings controlling priestcraft to keep people dominated and suppressed. That is the nature of this world, and it involves politics as well. Always does.
Yes.
So for people to be able to live a life on this earth and step beyond that while they're alive, they have to have a way to do it, and a way to do it safely.
That is key right there. People have a hard time with all that's going on and trying to stay positive and not get all depressed and worried about the future and things of that nature.
Well, all you need to do to control a mass of people on a planet, keep them working for the elite, you might say, is to keep them afraid of the future in some way. Why? Because when people operate from fear, or they use their imagination to see an Armageddon coming any day now, because some minister told them the end of the world's coming in the name of so-and-so or somebody. And then people go through life in fear of evil. They're actually giving it energy by being afraid of it. They're staying caught by it, or they're afraid of the future for their family or the country. So they're living in daily terror. And when you do that, none of the higher faculties of the Atma, like the real person that's floating above your head in that image, none of those higher faculties of direct knowing perception, looking into the universe and remembering things, it's all blocked. Because those higher energies don't work with fear or negative emotions of any kind.
And you know, if you the people who spend time watching TV, besides all the subliminal messages which they receive, there's also that it's almost always, especially in the news, there's nothing, they never report anything positive. It's always something negative.
That's well because news networks, and this, people are still kept in the dark about this. There's no free press in this country. There hasn't been since the end of World War II. I don't care if you call it a democracy or a republic or what you call it, but under a National Security Act, which allows things to be classified so that people can either not tell the truth or outright lie about what they know, especially about extraterrestrial life, the vast nature of it out there, and that which has visited this earth in secret to a few leaders and things like that. If you can keep people, if you can keep that classified, then you have to control the news media in a country. in order to play a game with the Cold War with the former Soviet Union, because you have to fund projects, black ops and things that reverse engineer extraterrestrial technology of things that they've given to them or crashed, etc. And to do that, you have to control what is released through the press. So the military-industrial complex, which came out of World War II, which Eisenhower helped found against, and he really regretted it the rest of his life, because when he left office, other people started taking over that from outside the government itself, and some from people that were corrupt within the government. So what you had was an entire control, buying up ABC, CBS, NBC through these corporations, even the studio system, so that they could have consultants from the government or military in Hollywood guiding what could and could not be done, what could be said that's classified and what could not. And then it just got controlled after that.
Yeah, they're really paranoid about extraterrestrial, that's for sure. And I'm really hoping
who's paranoid about it?
The public.
No,
there's a lot of people that don't believe it, even there's even any such thing, which is just.
Yeah, I think a majority of people actually a survey many surveys have been done. The majority of people believe they exist.
Oh, that's
they
good.
They don't have any reality on it as far as personal experience they remember. But there's been enough TV stuff and enough UFO pictures, enough data, and enough abductions, enough this and that 20, 30 years ago for people to, and what they've seen in film and TV, to be ready to have full disclosure. The people are ready, the governments aren't. It's not the people that aren't ready.
Oh, that's a good way of putting it, yeah.
It's
I guess
it's
the government that's paranoid.
They've held on to dishonesty towards the public for so long for what they think are justifiable reasons. It's just a bad habit. It's hard to get rid of it. You've got the whole financial structure of this country set up on the military-industrial complex, and a lot of that is classified. So your workers who provide tax dollars, the money's going places that people have no idea what it's being used for. And it's mandatory. That's not a democracy.
No.
That's a rule by an elite. That's all it is. And that is how countries and leadership evolved after World War II, partially because of what happened with Nazi Germany and Japan attacking and things like that, and the things that created the circumstances prior to that led up to it, that were financially based. So.
Mm-hmm. I've been seeing a lot of pictures of people, just your average Joe using their camera and seeing ships in the sky. And
that's
orbs.
That's old news, though. I mean, that's been around for 30, 40, 50 years. People have been talking about that, sharing that for ages. But here's the thing. When people get together at, like I say, a UFO conference, mm-hmm. or they go down a radio show like Coast to Coast or anything like this, the numbers of people that really tune into it are fairly consistent. They change over time and people drop away from it. But the numbers remain almost insignificantly small compared to 7 billion people who aren't even aware of Coast to Coast still to this day, or that aren't aware of, say, what a small group of people will do to go to a UFO conference that really think it's happening all over the world. Everybody in every country knows about extraterrestrials and UFOs. In Russia and China, of course they do. They've all seen them. Mm-hmm. There's almost 1 billion followers, I guess, of the Pope in Rome, or the Roman Catholic faith. And the Pope in Rome had to say it's not contradictory to the Bible to believe in extraterrestrials a few years ago, because they were losing their following from people who have seen them all through South America, where most of those followers are. So things are changing in what I consider to be a good way towards full disclosure.
Thank goodness. I'll welcome the day when that happens more.
Here's the thing about that. We can't sit back on our duff and wait for it to happen to us. People on Earth need to wake up enough to want to co-creatively contribute to that change.
How would they do that, Scott?
Well, it's like this radio show. I mean, there's only 2 of us on the show, and it's a small show, but interesting people are finding it, aren't they?
Yes, it is. It amazes me every day.
So
I mean, I don't have any marketing done or anything like that. I mean,
people are finding it because they're being helped with friends or co-workers or co-creators I work with from out of town. What do I mean by out of town? Very far out of town, like off planet Earth. And that means billions of world systems on many dimensional levels that are moving in a new direction for the first time, universally in a sense, that is sweeping through the lower dimensions and through the Milky Way galaxy, Andromeda and others, to change or retire this thing we call the experiment of evil and replace it with something that actually motivates beings to only use their imagination to create those things which are of an uplifting benefit to all life. For that to work, people on Earth need to become aware of the vast nature of life beyond this planet, not just out in space, in other dimensions as well. Why? Because although they don't know it on Earth, every single atom running a body on Earth is running another body on a number of dimensions simultaneously. And people on Earth don't know this. They don't remember it. It's been blocked, suppressed subconsciously. And they're terrorized to find the truth. A lot of people are in terror to leave their body, which is a natural ability of the Atma, not the physical brain or body, the being that runs the brain and body. Can get it out of it, does it every night when they put their body in the trance state we call sleep. They all do it, like experts, but not consciously.
They're very surprised, I think, when you tell them that they leave their body at night when they're sleeping.
Everyone does. And yet most people can't tell you what their dreams were, or they have boggled dreams or jumbled dreams or terrorizing dreams or very vivid, wonderful dreams of flying in physical bodies somewhere. That's pretty common. But they'll have an experience and then it'll just be tucked away and they'll forget it in their hustle and bustle of daily life, because in this life on Earth, they're never taught from childhood growing up from anybody anywhere the reality of what life is like beyond this Earth and in other dimensions. The brain that they've got here in this body that was born here has none of that programmed into it in its experience in this life on Earth. The only thing programmed in that is all the experiences of all the fear and negativity of all the people all over the Earth, constantly being putting out this fear of the future. It's thick in the atmosphere of this planet.
It is, because, I've cleared myself of it, and then I found, like I've heard you say before, you start picking it up again from others. And
you only do that if you turn your attention towards fear. Then you pick it up again. You don't just become the effect of it because you don't have any choice. You become the effect of it because for some reason you begin to fear and doubt yourself, the future, world war, and then you drift off into an old habit and you start finding you're imagining negative things in your own future. That's when you're caught.
I usually stop it before it, really takes hold.
You know how to do that now. You're becoming more aware of how to stop yourself, correct?
Yes. I say, delete that.
That's what these journeys do in a beneficial way for people who have the courage to go on them.
Yeah, because I've actually had people try to convince me that I should be in fear.
Right. Yeah, right. No, thank you. How about no?
How about no? Yeah, really.
Yeah, and they think you're not normal if you're not terrified of the future, if you don't debate politics. Mm-hmm. Democrats versus Republican. Oh, let's get into that and talk about it like talking heads every day for months and years on TV. Oh, boy.
Has it ever changed anything on this planet?
It's perpetuated the same nonsense.
And I say, okay, just vote harder. It just
you only get to push the button once, and what difference does it make? If you've got a system in this country set up on the principle of lobbying, which means that lobbyists can take and wine and dine people in Washington, the new senators in Congress, take them to lunch, explain the deal to them off the books. If they vote their way for their military-industrial complex, whatever, that they get perks when they get out of office, and they always keep their word.
It's called bribing, isn't it?
Well, it's a legal thing. It's legal, so People are influenced after they get into office to not vote their conscience, but their pocketbook or their perks when they get out. And that's a conflict of interest in a so-called democracy, which is really a republic. It means you elect someone who then represents your interest to vote for you. And you don't even know what they're voting on. You're never told that most of the time. Or if it's voted on in classified arenas, you're never told it.
Yeah.
So that's a system that in itself and of itself has no future on any world, anywhere. Ultimately, it will break down or heal and recover in a new way because it is a form of deceit and dishonesty, and that's negative. And by the primary law of physics in the physical universe, every action creates an equal but opposite reaction. And that means mentally and emotionally and what you imagine as well. They're all frequencies measurable on an oscilloscope, brain waves and all that. It puts out an energy that goes out, and by physical plane law, it has to come back to you in whatever way you put it out. So if you're deceitful and dishonest and it's classified and you're lying and misdeceiving people, it causes ill health and disease and death and all kinds of problems for the people who do it, as well as for the people they're not serving in the world public doing it. And I'm not saying anything they don't know today, right now. They know it's not good. They also know there's no real future in it, no special space program that built on dishonesty and deception, taking it to the stars to go throw that junk on other races who have left that behind hundreds of millions of years ago. You think that's really going to fly out there? It's self-deceptive. It's an illusion. It's deceiving. It's self-denial. Or what's the word? Not self-denial.
Self-delusional.
Yeah, but I mean, when you call it when someone denies what's true just because they're in denial.
Okay.
Because people did what they did after World War II on this planet. I keep going back to that because it's more important what happened then than at any point in history of this world. And that history goes back 65 million years. After the dinosaurs were made extinct, people from other worlds have been coming here. That didn't evolve on this planet, including human. Never evolved here originally. Now that is not the kind of awareness an elite on a planet that wants to control things wants the masses knowing. And what little they themselves know about it, they want to keep to themselves. Because it helps protect their ability to deceive or be dishonest about what's classified and why, and does it really protect the national security of the country? In some cases, yes. In most cases, no. It's just used as a blanket thing to cover everything up they want to cover up. And it supersedes the Constitution, and it's never been ratified by any majority in this government. The National Security Act.
Isn't that amazing? It
was done out of desperation to be able to protect research and extraterrestrial technology they were acquiring out of nowhere, in and against the struggle with another country, Russia, that was in a Soviet Union that was able to fund and maintain funding of such projects despite who was in their government, because their premiers and all that were in their positions of power a lot longer than any sitting president in the United States. So they had to come up with a way to fund this stuff and keep it going despite who's in the White House, which is what they did. That's good on paper, but it ends up being a conflict of interest for ignoring the Constitution completely. All you got to do is say that's classified, Constitution's gone.
Oop.
Supreme Court, they don't need to know.
Wow.
See the problem with that?
Yeah, I see all kinds of problems.
And you know where they got the idea to do that from? The Nazis they brought over here and pardoned. That's conflict of interest. It looks good on paper, and I'm sure it did to them then. But it's clear to me that most of the people in the classified arena today know there's something really wrong with the way they're doing this. And the original bylaws, the original way this thing was constructed was to disclose fully to the American people, to the world, when they felt no one would panic. That was part of it. Mm-hmm. That's been going on for what, 65 years, and they still haven't come clean.
I was just going to say, how many years has it been? It's quite a few.
2020 coming up, and they still going, oh, we can't tell people because we're human beings just like them, but we need to know, but they don't need to know because somehow we're more elite and we get to, and they don't.
We're better than you, basically, is what it boils down to.
You're trusting military-minded people to not push a button for us when they're military-minded to begin with, and they're supposed to know stuff we can't know, and they're supposed to protect us. From the negative lives they're living, they'll make many mistakes, and they do, in judgment and error, because they're working in fear themselves. You cannot make a correct decision of a universal good for all life operating in fear. It's impossible. So when I put this work out, Gail, it's not for debate or controversy. I don't get on this show and debate with anybody, and I'm never going to. It's a complete and utter waste of my time on this earth. Debate is nothing but negative. It has no constructive value and never has. People need experience, not debate. A bunch of talking heads talking about what they believe this and they believe that, and they fight about it on the 9 o'clock news. How is that helping anybody find truth or anything else? It's not. Yeah. If somebody in Washington wants to call up the head of a major news network like CNN, or they want to call up the head of a studio in Hollywood and say, you know, you're about to do this project, and it's not really where we want it to go for disclosure yet, so don't do it. They won't do it. It isn't free will like you think. They won't do it because it's a national security thing. They'll be threatened with fines and jail time. You think the head of a CEO making millions is going to jeopardize his paycheck over that?
Not very likely.
Okay. So it's easy to see how consultants to the film industry and news agencies are put in place to regulate what will and not be disclosed. You cannot control a classified system unless you control the media. That would be possible.
That's a big problem right there.
So coming clean is also coming clean about all of that. There is a way to do it safely without destruction where no one gets hurt. People that have been deceiving people in classified arenas, it's not about harming any of them or their families. It's about setting them free from the terror that drives them to make wrong decisions as we speak. Because it's not heading anywhere in a practical way for the future. You can't have a planet like this. It's just ready to be joined, actually ready to join the advanced cultures, human and otherwise, that would give us the technology and cures for disease and all this stuff that's old hat to them, if we were sane enough to accept it and play with them in the universe in a trustworthy manner. We're not.
What is it going to take to get, like the militaries of the different countries to be able to, lay down their weapons?
They don't have to lay down their weapons. They just have to decide not to use them. They've already decided that. Well, that's not true.
Well, the nuclear part, especially.
No, they
still
didn't
talk
decide
about
that
that
either. Gail, they didn't decide that either.
It was decided for them by extraterrestrials.
Well,
I understand that.
In a way, it's not like they want to interfere and control and run governments on planet Earth. They don't.
Mm-hmm.
Burden nobody wants.
No, who would?
But let's just say that when they attempted nuclear war here, they were shown in no uncertain terms that that would not be tolerated. And they don't tell the people in the world about it when their launch computers won't work. How can you convince people to pay taxes and support a classified arena if they believe your military cannot protect them from races from beyond the stars that are far more advanced than we are? This is the thinking at the end of World War II, Gail. Think about it. Put yourself in their shoes. 5-star General Eisenhower suddenly confronted with meeting with an extraterrestrial from another planet on the tarmac at Edwards.
Yeah. I can imagine. Yeah, really.
He didn't just meet with the good guys either, by the way.
Yeah.
Scared the I don't want to say that. It scared the heck out of him. He's a good man.
Who wouldn't it scare?
And
really?
he never would have agreed to sign a treaty with bad guys or tyrants to get antiquated extraterrestrial technology if he wasn't influenced against his will from the misuse of off-world technology.
Which he didn't even know at the time, correct?
No.
Yeah.
CIA couldn't have seen that coming. A new organization. founded under Truman 3 weeks after the Roswell, New Mexico crash, including the National Security Act. All that was done to cover up extraterrestrial anything. Why? So people would feel safe to rebuild a damaged world after World War II and make babies and be baby boomers and rebuild. That's why 35 countries agreed to do it. Classify it. It's just that it's been going on so long, and the world is, let's say, people in power now are themselves in fear of other countries, nuclear war, even the facade they created. They fear themselves. They fear extraterrestrials. There's good ones. There's tyrants. There's an off-world treaty that keeps things in check, or we'd all be dead now on this planet as we speak. So when I say I'm not in fear in any way, shape, or form, nor do I have any apprehension or fear of the future, then I really mean it. I don't. That's because of what I know from direct experience, not from faith, not from any organization on this planet, or religious or political, because I don't follow any of them. It's because of what I know that is way beyond what is revealed to people on this earth. And the people on this earth are destined to have it revealed to them now. So that's a good thing.
Very good.
When like for instance, we're on this show now, I'm talking to you. I'm also speaking to all the listeners who around the world who want to find ways to recover what they once knew before they were born, who they are that is not a physical body, because they've never been a physical body and they don't know that yet. Whether they've been made to forget it or not doesn't change the truth of the reality of who we are as beings, which is energy, spherical, but not like this. This is just a higher form of genetic entity developed over ages ago, not on this world. So the Atma, the real being, could get into this nervous system and run it and run higher faculties through it and experience the sensory capability and awareness for that dimension, that plane where the molecules of this body are comprised. A sensory ability to peer into that plane. An Atma can do it without a body, but without a form they can run that they're not attached to, that they're not in the illusion that they are a body, can pick up and work in a particular dimension and experience life in a real sense that other people are. And they can come up with new ways from that insight to create new ways of fixing what's wrong with the lower dimensions altogether. And there's a lot wrong with them. They run on automatic on a principle of physics. Speed of light is limited to the speed of light because that's what people can see with their physical eyes and detect. It's 186,000 miles per second. Well, yes, but what about how fast is the frequencies that go beyond what you can perceive with physical eyes and ears? It isn't limited. The perception of it can be limited, but it of itself is not.
You know, one of the things that I think is a beautiful thing about this Edma here that everybody has is the fact that it takes away all the divisions created by race, religion, economics, position, whatever. It takes all of that away, and we all have that. And,
well, yeah, in a way, but it doesn't actually take it from you. Mm-hmm. It raises your vibration, and you co-create raising your vibration by knowing about the hue, tuning in the omnipresent first sound that supports the whole creation out there that scientists on Earth don't understand yet. Mm-hmm. You actually end up co-creating, removing and getting rid of and having mastery over negative things so that you're not vulnerable to be tricked or trapped by tyrants again ever. There's a new kind of consciousness running through what we call the omnipresent living energy field that supports all creation. People could call it divine spirit, but they have very little understanding of what that is on Earth today. It's a faith, it's a belief. They don't have the real experience of communication directly with it that they need. They don't realize it's a one-on-one co-creative conscious thing yet. They have the ability to, under the right conditions, to recover this awareness that they had long before they found themselves on this planet with no memory of how they got here. This is all recoverable by people as they begin to work with their own effort in the use of the creative imagination correctly, the creative imagination is not something made up in the brain. In fact, it's not even something the brain can do. If I imagine being on another planet or in a higher dimension, and I can take people on journeys to see the details of these realities, which I do, then people on Earth who are an Atma just like I am, because I was able to recover it against all odds on this backward planet. And if I can do it and set an example for others, they can do it too. Because I'm no better or anything. I'm just an Atma like they are.
That's
I'm
what I
not,
was.
you know.
That's what I was getting at. I'm sorry.
No, it's good. It's good. These are good things. The questions you bring up are good because when you say them from a position of how you were brought up on Earth, like something can be done to you by some superior being, it's like being under someone's thumb, potentially, because it's almost like prostrating yourself below some superior being, which is the programming of tyrants to control people. It's like the thing that people worship, what they think is a supreme being on this earth. They have no idea what it is they're worshiping. They just know it as a supreme being somewhere out there.
Yeah.
You know, and that doesn't allow them to grow and experience and gain wisdom through experience while they're alive. And then they usually pass away in fear of the unknown. And the fear, what they take with them, will drive them generally to find another body, what they think is security, and climb into it with no memory over and over again. Because it's a negative way they leave the life. It's not confident. So, if the people in the world's religions of faith today were able to have direct experience with what they worship all the time, whether it's divine spirit or what they call the supreme being, and understood that it of itself never requested or required that anyone worship it in the first place, changes everything. It has to be their experience, not my words. For instance, the source behind all life, which beings on countless hundreds of millions of worlds in our Milky Way galaxy alone, referred to as prime creator, or the primary source from which all creation sprang. As it of itself, it is not one of these administrators that run the lower dimensions, like the etheric, mental, causal, and astral, emotional plane and physical worlds. These are divisions of reality and creation that run at different molecular time rates. So people don't normally see or perceive each other when they're operating in a body made of physical matter and mental plane. They don't see the etheric or vice versa, causal or astral. They're all separated because they function for different reasons. And beings are living lives in those planes, running a body as well as the one they have on Earth. And they have no idea they're doing it.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's pretty profound.
Then you get up to this barrier, which I think some esoteric groups on Earth call the void.
Yes.
And the void is this area when you get into it, looks like there's nothing there.
Blankness.
There is energy there, but there's nothing you can see
Physically.
unless you know how to see the beings that work there. There is a lot there. But then when you get over that, it goes into a field of energy that it's a divider for. And in the upper worlds above that, because many esoteric groups think that's the end and be all of the supreme being, there's nothing beyond it. This is not true at all. It's simply a barrier between the upper dimensions and the lower. And in the upper dimensions, the energy is not positive and negative. It's not nuclear in nature. It is energy, but not as people understand it in lower planes for the most part or on Earth. And it's up in that area that all this got created. And it's up in that area that has to change in consciousness first in order for new things to be implemented in the lower planes to change them. The original idea was to make the lower dimensions mirrors of the upper worlds. That never happened. That's why it's called a failed experiment.
Yeah, the experiment of evil. I like the term you use, kind of trying to cattle prod.
Here's the thing, people have a hard time accepting until they grow or wake up enough. As an Atma, the energy that makes up this spherical being that we are, it's that thing above your head is made in the image of the source. not this.
Yeah, that makes so much more sense when you think about it, even based on some of the things that people have been told, because, if you think it's this, think of all the different ways people look. And if it's that image, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense in and of itself.
People don't stop oftentimes because they are afraid of it subconsciously. Mm-hmm. To say, wait a minute, planets and moons and suns and stars are all round, floating in some void. How did they get to be round? Well, beings that made them in that image. Duh.
Oops, didn't think of that. Now it just all kinds of
and when you go back
together.
far enough, you find out that the Atma does not come into existence in time and space in the lower dimensions. There's no past and future time track thing involved in those upper worlds, which means that beings like us, the real us, have been around since the beginning as part of the source, made of exactly the same energy as the whole thing up there. And collectively, there's this thing that comes together, and it's called the Supreme Being or the Prime Creator. And it's like having the pure aspects of all our beings connected together, creating a source intelligence that is more than the sum of its parts. You could even speak to it. But it's not a tyrant like certain beings in the lower dimensions that took on the persona of, thou shalt worship me, or I shall smite thee with a lightning bolt and stick you in hell.
Yeah.
That's not the source. That's the pretend sources in the lower planes.
It never made sense to me, even as a child, I just remember being told some of these things from the various religions, and I go, whoa, one minute this God is all loving, and the next minute he wants to, throw you down to hell if you don't do something right,
My work is not about religions. It's not about saying bad things about them. It's not being against them or anything in government or anyone else. It's simply about helping those people on earth recover who they are in every field. I don't care if they're the Queen of England, I've said this before, President of the United States or any country, hidden classified people that know stuff and operate in power and funding beyond the president that he doesn't even know about. All of that kind of thing. It's for all those people, because as long as they're operating in fear, collecting money from everybody and funding it into projects based on deceit or dishonesty, they will never be allowed to play among the stars. Ever. With reverse engineered anything. Because they're quarantined into this solar system.
Do they know that?
Yeah.
Do they know that?
Of course they do. Okay. You think they don't? They run into a barrier. They're not allowed to. They don't know how to function. Crap that will warp drive through multi-dimensions because it screws them up. And if they're driven by subconscious negative implants or subconscious negative drives, the more advanced craft have to work based on your telepathy. Because you have to actually run craft like that from the Atma through a physical body, not from a brain. That won't work. So it simply means that disclosure, which is underway off-world and therefore is here, has to come about in a way that's non-destructive. It's not to put people up against a wall and point fingers, because every one of us, as an Atma, not the body, is responsible in eternity for the creation of the experiment we call evil. You can't blame it on a devil or the source itself. As beings who are made of this source energy, completely identical in every way with the supreme source or the prime creator itself, on a small scale, like a drop of pure water in a field of this huge universe of white light, and you are comprised of the same thing as it, individualized. Mm-hmm. Then we're responsible for having created something that didn't work, and we're also ultimately responsible to create it differently so it will.
So basically, we all thought it was a good idea at the time, but it didn't work, and it still doesn't work.
Everybody knows it doesn't work, and didn't. That's clear enough. But what do you do about it? Bitching about it won't change it a bit. So it's very, very beneficial for a being living on any world like Earth to recover what they once knew in eternity that they've been made to forget under many circumstances, and recover who they are that they were at the source while they're running a life on earth. That is called enlightenment. Some people refer to it as self and God realization, which means self-realization is you know what you are that isn't physical, what it looks like and how to move it about. And God realization meaning you know how to co-create with the source itself.
How many people know how to do that?
That's the answer to the riddle of life. What is my purpose as a being? To become a responsible, trustworthy co-creator with the source. Not a co-worshiper or a co-slave under tyrant, a co-creator. All that's required to do that is to discover how to respect that source, not worship it, and respect each other in all life that exists in that grand multidimensional universe. And if you can't recover or know what's out there, you can't respect it. You can't become a co-creator with it. You get stuck in bodies on earth or somewhere else. So we want to reverse all that, and to do that takes the assistance of and cooperation of billions, if not trillions, of beings who have never grew up on this planet. You know, they grew up having the awareness of what they are as an Atma, running a child's body. Their parents, the governments, enforce and encourage them to be aware to leave their bodies growing up. They use 100% of their brain. Their DNA is different than ours as human beings because all the genomes are turned on and not some of them turned off like they are in people on Earth. They use 100% of 100% of the brain they have instead of 6 to 10 people are told we use here, which makes no sense, which means somebody shut that stuff down.
Wow. Yeah, that's
They're
kind of
telepathic. They
pathetic.
have a photographic memory. They're not, you know, if a child gets born through parents on one of these normal worlds, because Earth isn't yet, then that parent and that child knows who each other is. The parents don't look at that child as a immature baby, because when it's out of its body, they can talk to it like an adult. The new body is being raised, and it's raised much more rapidly than they are on Earth. The energy's different. So, you know, you get a new body, and you just had one for 10,000 years, and you decide to get another one for whatever reason, get another baby body that's born, and you're conscious about who you are when you're not in the body developing this little brain to know how to coordinate itself and talk and speak and all that. You still have awareness of who you are. That's real normal life out there. If people on Earth had any idea how normal life really is, they would be shocked, you know, beyond belief, because it is quite different than the way they're living on Earth.
Wow, well, just the idea to be able to achieve that is phenomenal, because if more people became aware and we could have like a 100th monkey effect, and people started having that awareness because they were willing to do direct experience, which is what
that's what this show is about.
Yes, exactly.
The 100th, I should explain the 100th monkey you brought up, because a lot of people don't know that.
Oh, okay.
It just means, and I think the story is this, there's 2 islands off Japan that have monkeys living on them that never got together with each other. And the people would bring crates of food and fruit for them to eat on these 2 separate islands. And they've been doing that for, I guess, generations, you know, supporting these monkeys. And then whenever the fruit would drop into the sand, they would eat around where the sand is and throw the rest away. And one day, a piece of fruit rolls down into the ocean and the water cleans off the sand. The monkey eats the whole thing. So from then on, that monkey started washing his fruit. And the monkeys on the other island never had contact, started doing the same thing. Telepathically. That's what the 100th monkey thing is about. People on Earth start to do that. It spreads. And then the whole thing gets better quicker, which is what we're after.
And that's kind of happening already, isn't it? Because people are finding the show. And people you would never expect.
No, that's right. More will. We should probably then, having said this in many ways and from different angles, adding a little bit more here and a little bit less there, and a deeper dimension of it here every time we get on the show. I bring it up because the phenomena is fact. People on Earth, when they hear something, hear data, they doubt it immediately because it's not their own experience. Understandable. But as I talk with you and others, I'm doing this telepathically. It means that I'm communicating with friends from out of town, with the people listening, and they're beginning to get some help from friends who are quite adept and quite experienced at unraveling the tight knot of their subconscious fear when they're out of their bodies at night. And that's where the most effective work can be done for massive people on Earth. Leaders, military, everybody. There's no negative nature in the beings that I co-create with to work with people on Earth this way. They don't have a hidden agenda. They don't want to run the planet or take it over. They just want people to grow up on this planet, be who they are that isn't the physical body, wake up and then come and play in the universe with them. Because a lot of people that are on Earth are missing relatives and friends from millions of years ago they've never found until recently. They didn't even know where they were put. And they're finding them unconscious in bodies on this planet all over the place.
Wow.
So gives them a motivation to help in ways they haven't before. Also, there was a change in creation in the upper worlds we talked about that motivated the beings there to create new ways of doing things, to change this way that things are run down here, or misdirected, I should say. So that's underway too. And what's important isn't so much what I say as what people begin to feel and sense when I say it in their own being. Because part of them will hear some of what we're doing in these journeys and go, wow, that's right. How did I ever forget that? I used to know that. See what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It has to be their own experience. So we work with the omnipresent first sound behind all creation that was used to create different dimensions and these beings called silent mentors, which run the mechanics of creation, have never really been involved in the individual evolution of an individual solar atma. They're too busy just keeping the universe and everything in place, all the dimensions, all the galaxies spinning and suns working and all that stuff. Yeah, there are such beings, obviously, or it just all fall apart. There are beings that are spherical that are maintaining the structure of the universe. I've met them. I know.
I've seen them.
I don't debate it. I'm not going to negotiate whether it's true or not with anybody on this planet or on any world. When you know, you know. And all I'm endeavoring to do is help people to know again, certainty. When they know something, that they know it with certainty and not doubt and fear and speculation, debate, and all that junk. Because it's worthless. It doesn't answer anything. Okay. I request that people who are listening to your show, with your permission too, Gail.
Of course.
It's always good to be respectful of other beings. I ask that they sit in a chair or lay down, get comfortable, take several breaths, and when they breathe out their fear of the future. In other words, whatever they're afraid of, aging, loss of family, taxation, what North Korea will do, or Iran, or extraterrestrials, or any of it, polar shifts, end of the world. Put it all aside before we start the journey, and little imaginary computer programs on the bed and the shelves behind you, and call this fear A through Z. There you are, you're over there now. Because where we're going now together and where I take people, fear and doubt and uncertainty cannot go with you. If I take people into the upper worlds across the void known to the Buddhists on this journey, they can't take their mental body or their emotional body with them, or the physical. They're left on those planes where those bodies are. And only the Atma, the real being, can cross that void into the upper worlds. Nothing of the lower nature can enter there. So, imagine someone you love and respect, you're grateful they're in your life, person, place, or thing, but something that makes you smile or feel warm inside when you imagine it. Could be a savior, could be anything, just so it does something with the heart. And that opens a door in the pineal gland in the center of the brain, in you, the expert, the Atma, running that body, that puts that body in the trance state called sleep every night, wherever you are on earth. We're going on this journey to whatever degree you're capable at this time in a conscious way. The body will go into the trance state called sleep because the pineal gland, and you are doing this, not me. You do it every night anyway. And you'll secrete serotonin, make melatonin. These are chemicals which run the body in automatic, pump the blood, run the heart, breathe. Nobody's home. The brain is off. When your eyes are closed, there's no light or any visual characteristics coming into your brain because the eyes are off. So when I say to you, imagine a hummingbird hovering in front of your face, the rainbow-colored feathers smiling at you, whenever you see it, however vague, you know you're seeing something. And it's not the brain or the physical eyes that's seeing it. So what is seeing that? Because the brain does not have a motion picture camera or projector screen on which you can see things you imagine. Just people on earth are not taught this, so why should they understand it or have any confidence with it? You know, they imagine all the time. Usually it's fear of the future. And that goes out and creates conditions that bring back that fear. So we don't want to be doing that. We want to be imagining a free will, constructive, uplifting, beneficial things for all life, now, in the present moment, and about the future of this world and its people and all life. This is a challenge, but is a normal function of the Atma when it's recovered its higher faculties to do this. I send out this statement. These words were constructed very carefully between myself and Ambassador Torellian of the Se race extraterrestrial human race. They are no longer in corporeal form. They immortalized their physical forms over 1 billion years ago, which means they manifest a physical form when they need it, and then dematerialize it, store it in an atom or a structure, a faculty within the Atma. But there's a friend of mine I begin to send out, here's what I say, and I do this myself. I practice what I share with others to do because it works. I send out telepathically to the omnipresent field of force, this underlying God particle, for a lack of better terms, this underlying omnipresent living force energy that underlies and supports all creation between planets and suns and moons and beings, galaxies and higher dimensions. It runs through all of it. It is energy, but it is not nuclear in nature. It is not atoms or protons, electrons or neutrons, quarks or any of that. Yet it supports and provides energy to such things. And I send this out into it. Safely show me deliberately hidden truth on a grand multi-dimensional scale, and the much greater knowing of the expansive love within it. If you really contemplate on what those words are constructed like, you'll see what it's setting up for this omnipresent living force. You consider it an extension of the source or prime creator itself, and its nature is to co-create with what we imagine. Thus, the need to master the imagination to only create uplifting, beneficial things for all life is what it co-creates with. The new energy ray, the new consciousness that runs through this force, does not and will not work with negative emotions of any kind. Fear of the future, doubt, speculation, argument, anger, revenge, any of that stuff. These are all artificially created and imposed upon the Atma at some point in its past. They are not real aspects of the Atma at all. And therefore, because they're artificial and negative, they are erasable or neutralizable. The core of our being has always been the ability to know we have dominance over any form of negativity, negative being in or out of bodies, or the misuse of advanced extraterrestrial technology. The Atma has always had mastery over such things, but it's been perverted, manipulated, and tortured at times in its past to doubt and fear this. That's artificial. The subconscious mind people talk about on Earth is an artificially created domain into which things can be programmed you're not aware of, obviously. And thus your nervous system gets influenced to be in fear of leaving your body, what exists beyond Earth, and all of that. So you live in ignorance your whole life and die in fear. This is not normal. I send out these tones of the hue, HU, like the name HUGH, because it sets up a frequency, a harmonic frequency through the pineal gland, opens a kind of a door that allows us to connect directly to the source itself with no intermediaries. Why? Because the white core of our being, spherical, is comprised of exactly the same energy as that, and we can connect right into it. And when you do that, it comes with a certain kind of protection, which people need to experience for themselves to know the validity of it, that allows you to progress and wake up this stuff while you're alive on a planet as backward, misdirected as Earth is right now, because it's not destined to stay this way, like people think incorrectly. I will send out these tones because it helps to, but what it really does, and when you co-create with it, shuts off all negative subconscious fear. On Earth, in your astral emotional form, causal, mental, etheric, they're all going into a trance state called sleep and going into this deeper contemplation. And if I don't give you this information now, then you won't know what's happening or why. Then you need to remember, recall, awaken. I'll begin these tones now. It's easy to be above or beyond the physical body, as easy as daydreaming. When a person daydreams and looks out a window at the street in a building, and they see what's on the street with their physical eyes, but imagine being in the mountains on a ski trip. The aspect of their being that is really the true them is seeing the ski trip. Physical eyes are seeing what's on Earth. And that being seeing the ski trip is not being made up in the brain at all. It's easy to be out of your body because you can imagine yourself walking in bare feet on brown moss-covered grass, cool and soothing, and it's luminous, and you can feel a vibration being sent up your feet that feels good and uplifting. And it goes up through your torso, which looks to be about 36 in perfect health, not like what you have on Earth, perhaps. Up through the top of your head, and you look up to see where the energy's going. You see a spherical being hovering above this physical form that looks like you. And you can see that you have a white core, like a sphere or a sun in the center, and a layer of teardrop-shaped lights luminous around it, space between them. And the next layer is kind of a yellow color, and then a little space and gets to be a little orange, and then a little green, and a little blue, and a little lavender, and a little violet, and then a golden energy field around it, generated from the white core itself. Each one of those teardrops in each layer is a higher faculty of being. Past lives are stored there, not just on Earth, on other planets, other galaxies, and higher dimensions that you all experienced at some time in the past you've been made to forget. And when you're up in the center of that white core looking down at this body smiling up at you, you are both. The body form is made of energy, looks like you, so you can perceive this reality, where this brown, moist moss is your feet are touching. It is not on planet Earth as you know it. And as you imagine this, you are actually doing it, seeing it, experiencing it. Whether you doubt this now or later is unimportant. The real you is doing it while the body's eyes and brain are turned off. Contemplate on this, what I just stated for a moment. Your eyes are closed. The brain associated with sight is not working. Therefore, when you see anything in the imagination, it isn't the brain that's doing it. It's you. This is the best way I have getting across to people the difference between what they are and what the body is. I'm not saying the body's unimportant. I'm saying the being should be conscious that it's running a body. Very important. When you look at this moss-covered brown grass that you're walking on, at your bare feet, and you look around you, you can see that you are standing next to a wide 100-foot or so or more circular marble floor. Surrounding it is 4-foot-tall lavender grass. A gentle, cool breeze is fanning your face and your hair. Now you can feel this as the body. If you look up, the Atma can feel it too, through the body. When you look around you at the edge of the clearing, out beyond the lavender grass, you see tall, what look like to be tall, weeping willow trees with blue-green leaves that are luminous, glowing. And under your feet, you feel a vibration, a humming sound that runs through creation, like the hughes, like a hum, And in a higher level, in the atmosphere, is like a million bees, but not annoying. A hum. That is energy that is conscious and alive. There's a hum taking place in the white core of your being that is in communication with the hum that's supporting this world. When you look out at this brown path and you look to the west, it continues 3 feet wide, another mile, and ends on you can see a glowing emerald green beach. Tall jungle trees lining this clearing, this path. And when you look in the middle of this white marble floor, in this beautiful atmosphere with no impurities in it, you see a statue of a woman made of quartz, pure, polished. And she has big angel wings behind her back spread out, and her hands are like this, with the palms open by her side of her shoulders, glowing green. And you can tell there's an energy being sent from her hands to that beach, lighting it up, charging it. The wings on her back are meant to represent the Atma, the being that's running this physical female statue form. And when you look at the wings, they're not to be misconstrued as being in an angelic order. They are representative of the Atma, which is hovering above this statue, the real being, its ability to fly in creation beyond physical life, back to the source, and anywhere in between at will. When you look into this quartz, it's transparent. You see a woman about 10 feet tall, beautiful, elegant gown, bare feet, standing on a blue pedestal in the center of this marble floor. And she has violet eyes. Beautiful woman, taller than people on earth, longer neck, longer fingers, and long silver hair. You can look right through the transparent surface of the quartz and see a being smiling at you right behind it if she's looking at you from another dimension, the actual person this quartz statue represents. Around her forehead is a gold band with an upside down, kind of a teardrop shaped faceted emerald jewel. And you can look into it. And when you do, you see a huge green auditorium-sized area. No walls, just a green atmosphere. And you see this woman standing in the air in the center of it. And in the next moment, you find yourself hovering as an Atma, as a spherical being, around her. There are other people here, not just you. Myself, Gail, Ambassador Turelian of the Say race. He's an Atma like us, but he's projecting an 18-foot tall body to stand beside this 10-foot tall woman. Because in his life, when he had a physical form, it was 18 feet tall. We get our genomes for the DNA for the bodies we run on Earth from them originally, long ago in galactic history. The actual being the statue represents is standing there smiling at you. This form of a woman exists on a planet called Xeon 1. It is 180 degrees on the other side of the Milky Way galaxy. And she has a mate, a significant other, a little taller. And the body she's showing you here is 3.5 million years old, unaged. Because they've conquered genome science on DNA. But they also are not trapped in bodies. They don't suffer from the illusion that they're the body they're running. They keep it there because it's the one they like the most, and it's for convenience sake, in order for this couple to be the leaders of a world systems that comprise more than half of our galaxy right now. They are called the Xeon race. They are originally from another galaxy in galactic history. She is telling you telepathically from the white core of her being, hovering above her physical form in this green atmosphere, that this is who she really is on her planet. She's telling you that her standing there is so that she can demonstrate for you what more advanced human life is like beyond Earth. The green energy you're floating in is for recall and memory. So there's a bit of a healing, a little bit of a gift being provided for people on this journey, in this experience, out of body, while their body back on earth remains safely in the trance state we call sleep. Then she's showing you a picture of a world that shows up like a hologram, an image of her world clear on the other side of the galaxy. It's a beautiful world with no polar ice caps, 4 times larger than Earth, little land masses all over it, and little oceans all around it, and domed cities covering, I don't know, it's not overpopulated, maybe 12 that you can see on one side of that planet. 3 beautiful moons the size of planet Earth, no polar ice caps with dome cities on them circling this big planet. And out in the distance, you can see 3 suns. It's a trinary system. A blue giant, what's called a blue giant in astronomical terms, on Earth, kind of a yellow sun like our sun, Sol, and a red dwarf, both circling this bigger blue giant. And these planets revolve around them at quite a distance, so the temperature is perfect. 3 suns have an effect. There are no polar ice caps. Such worlds exist out there. Then you find yourself walking along a riverbed in your bare feet in this energy form that looks like you, about 36. And you look up and see the Atma, the real you, running that body, hovering above you. You're watching along a snake-like riverbed of beautiful turquoise blue water. And off in the distance, you see red mesa plateaus like you'd find in Sedona, Arizona. And between them in the distance, a huge dome, clear dome covering a city with 3 gold-sided pyramids with quartz caps. And as you're walking along this path, well-worn, these 2 beings approach you in physical form, the Atma hovering above their head. And it's this woman and her mate with the violet eyes, the long silver hair, and ivory-colored skin like smooth like a moonstone, pointed ears like elves, wondrous, beautiful beings. And they're just smiling at you and showing you around their world near a river between 2 big valley structures. When you look up, you see a planet that looks very much like Earth, no polar ice caps, and has rings around it that you can see in broad daylight from this planet. And there are a dozen dome cities on its surface. Then you find yourself hovering in the green atmosphere next to this lady levitating in the air. And then you find yourself on the other side of this green emerald stone, this teleportation device, hovering around this crystal statue. Your body's touching this white marble circular floor. Then you find yourself, with Torellian and myself, spiraling upward towards space, and you move up with us. And in a moment, you're in space looking down on this planet. And this planet is Earth. What you're seeing now, where the statue is, where this emerald green beach is on a continent that covers the left to right hemisphere of a world that has no polar ice caps. It goes up towards the north about a third of the way before the top pole, and down towards the east, and then down a third of the way from the southern pole and back towards the west. There's a continent on the other side, 2/3 its size. You can see right through the planet, so you know it's there. When you look over to the left, you see the moon that in our Earth we're used to. It's crater-filled, no atmosphere. But this moon, in this parallel dimension on Earth, has atmosphere and lakes and rivers and 5 dome cities on the front, turning on its axis around the Earth. Where this is that you've just journeyed to is in a 3rd parallel dimension of faster molecular time rate matter, still in the physical universe, but on a planet, on a continental landmass, on an Earth that was never destroyed by polar flips every 100,000 years like our world we're used to went through. Until recently, it was going through such things. Now it's been permanently stopped. No more polar flips of this planet. One of the things that has changed that people on Earth no longer do not yet know it has taken place. And that was not done by anybody on Earth. So you're in space, hovering in the void of space, but it doesn't look black to you like the pictures you've seen from Space Hubble, satellites, or the shuttle. No. The black void of space here to the Atma U is white with a golden essence, kind of a golden white light, filling the space between the planet, the moon, the sun, you, me, people circling around Torellian as a focal point, Gail, myself, a master teacher called Ramu carrying a crystal staff, another guy from planet Oceania with pale blue skin, pointed ears, handsome looking guy, about 40 looking. These are beings who have gone on this journey with us, who are friends of mine. And if you look around you, there is a circle of over 500 beings hovering as spheres in a circle around us. And if you look closely, you'll see that they are men and women in different garb and different skin colors and eye colors and hair from other world systems in the Milky Way and from some higher dimensions below the void, who have been asked to come here because they are master teachers, well adept in assisting people to remove the subconscious knots that suppress them now. And if you ask them for help, they will help you at night when you're out of your body to drop and lose fear of all kinds. When you do that, you have access to recall and remember and the use of higher faculties again. The continent you're looking at on that Earth, in a higher frequency, is still called Lemriel, or Mu today. The 2/3 the size continent on the other side is called Atla or Atlantis. This is an original form of these lands, manned by master teachers and Galactic Alliance people, that has been a protected environment by the Say-Rays in the physical universe and has never had any form of negativity touch its surface. People come and go from there in ships and in their Atma form to assist with the transformation that's underway for this planet. Unexpected indeed. It's going to require that people on Earth wake up through the 100th monkey thing we talked about at the beginning, to actually want beings from other worlds to come here in mass and land and change this place and help people recover. Not tyrants. Tyrants who were coming here abusing people have been sent away. They're no longer on this planet. Heads up, people. If you think they are, you're living in the past. A lot has changed out in the galaxy. There is no war taking place out there, as some people are saying. If there were, people on Earth would certainly know about it, and they would not be alive today. Something to contemplate. It's very important. So here you are floating in space, looking at this beautiful planet Earth and Moon, with Torellian and friends from out of town, meaning off-world, floating in this white light with a golden essence. Safe from radiation, you don't need to breathe, there's no fear, no negative nature, and you are buoyantly floating in the void of space in a wide field of energy as an Atma, in communion with such beings right now. Torellian, a very dear friend of mine, the ambassador of the Say-Rays to this world and to the Galactic Interdimensional Alliance of Free Worlds, located on a planet near the galactic core of our galaxy. That organization comprises almost half of the galaxy now, and they've recently joined harmoniously together with the Xantornamus. That takes up the whole galaxy, and what little tyrants are left are being, let's just say, helped out of their deluded state of fear that makes them tyrants. Torellian will speak with each one of you on this journey. It's not for me to tell you what he says. It's for you to perceive it, to try to gain the confidence to say to yourself, you can know things again. on your own, standing in your own gravity, your own center. And if you want their assistance, they will assist you. Every night you go out of your body anyway without knowing what you're doing, because you've never been trained from birth on earth to bring anything back. In this way, you can begin to bring back a great deal more. And that changes consciousness on earth or any world. All of you will see this 500 beings. I guess there's 500 now. Now there's 1,000. Yeah. And they are men and women, often couples, not always, that will approach each of you, smiling kindly, respectfully. And all you need to do to gain their assistance is to respect them as individual, free beings, Atmas, co-creators with the Source. And you can gain their assistance. If you listen, you can hear the high, almost an electrical hum, even a high note of a flute blowing through the universe. You can hear it as the Atma. You can see it as a white golden light. You can feel it in the center of your being. You can even feel it in the center of your brain and your body back on earth, running through you. What has to happen here is the brain that grew up on earth has to be adjusted, and the DNA of the form you have with certain shutdown genomes helped out so that you can bring more of this kind of thing back to the physical consciousness. It becomes more flexible, more adaptable, more wise, more capable, more intelligent. Your IQ goes up through the roof and isn't even measurable on earth anymore. Now that you're looking on the earth from space, with these wonderful beings joining us, I want to point something out to people. Gail knows this. My cat, Starlight, is an Atma running a cat potty, very advanced, and he goes on these journeys. If you look, you'll see a kitty hovering in space, a kitty energy body hovering in front of an Atma that looks like us. I know because he's surprised me many times and gone even into the higher worlds and surprised me that he has the ability to go to such places. He's not human. There's a creature named Etta, who is a Dren, silica-based creature, about 3 feet long, stands upright on his hind legs. His arms are well built. He has little dexterous hands and fingers like a human, long snout, beautiful bulbous blue eyes, and a tail that glows like crystal open in sunlight. And you can see that body levitating in front of another Atma. Etta is a master teacher. He's not human. He loves his wife and kids more than most people on earth understand how to do yet. He's not from earth. And he's a personal friend. And he's teaching the Atma that is my cat how to levitate and fly around. And I'm not joking about any of this. All you have to do is see it. Because as you begin to see it, you begin to recover your ability to know such things. You're in the hue, the omnipresent living field of energy that supports and sustains all life. When you look at the earth, it changes back to the earth you're used to seeing with the polar ice caps, and the moon changes back to a crater marked covered surface with no atmosphere. Earth and the moon are not destined to stay as they are as you know them now. Then you find yourself hovering above your physical body as a spherical being, smiling kindly down on that form that's resting in a chair in the trance state called sleep, and you let this experience pass through you. This is your free will, not mine, not Torellian's. You as an individual respected Atma are creating it and allowing this omnipresent field of energy to move through you for the benefit of all life, for you and all others. When you're ready, open your eyes. Yeah, gotta turn on your volume there.
Well, thank you for that wonderful journey.
We've been through a similar thing, but it's always a little different. I'm keeping it for radio show people and people tuning in. I'm keeping it close to home. What I'm doing here is establishing them in an experience of an earth and moon that has no negativity in it. So they have a grounded place from which to start. Once they leave the body in the trance state, and all fears are left with it for now, then they can go out and experience this stuff, because you can only see and bring back this awareness without fear of any kind being involved. Very important. So we can go to other places, other planets, other dimensions, and we will. But I want the people listening, because many people that hear this have never read the Say Raise Agenda, either of my books, which are published on this earth, really just for the reason, because they're kind of like an interdimensional doorway.
Yes, they are.
In the back is a special technique section, an individual technique created for the prologue and all 29 chapters involving the hue. Now, what happens to Mark Sanfield and Janice Carter in this book and how they wake up will be very enlightening for people, because when they're seeing it, the book's written visually so that when you see it, you're seeing it for yourself. You come out the other end of this book knowing stuff is not revealed anywhere else on Earth, not even revealed out in the galaxy yet. So you'll find things here that are a key to moving you on your way to recovering.
It sparks things inside of you.
This is called the Emerald Doorway. As you see, this is a proof copy. It says not for sale. You see the Atma on the front cover? The Gail has above her head.
Like that. Yes.
And these key characters in this trilogy about Earth's ancient history over 100,000 years ago, the last and final time the poles of this planet flipped, destroyed all life. They're hovering on anti-gravity disks outside of his ship. This is an interdimensional doorway to the reality that begins beyond the void. They're meeting the source, the prime creator, which, if they knew it at the time, there'd be an Atma hovering above their head, looks just like that. And there's Etta right there, hovering. And you'll see him inside, because there are 30 illustrations in here. And this master teacher holding this quartz crystal staff, if you can see it, there is a symbol of a cross with an oval opening, which is really in ancient Earth history, not so ancient, Egyptian Ankh, or it means eternal life, but it's a device. And he's introducing these key characters to the Ancient One for the first time, 100,000 years ago. That's Emerald, the Emerald Doorway. And then there are 2 other books written which will be published when these become more known on this world. So these 2 books are out there. And I'll give you a picture of Etta as it is depicted in the book. Cute little guy.
Yes, he is.
Hovering with his glowing tail above the ground, little dexterous hands and feet. When his mouth is closed, if I can get this to focus, it looks like he's smiling or amused about something. He's courageous to a fault. He's not human, but extremely evolved. He would die for you if you befriended him to protect you.
And he's a lot of fun.
So when Gail puts this show up, she'll list the website, the main one, paralleltime.com, and the others, where you can go find out about this. There's nothing for sale at my websites, though. Just links to the correct sales page for trusted online retailers for an ebook or a paperback, because if I don't put them up there, people can't get them around the world. In this way, they can.
There's some wonderful illustrations there on all the sites, and plus more videos that are very helpful for this learning process. And
if you don't mind, I'm going to show people real quick Parallel Time, and it has a language translator on it. So people can turn the site into any language they want. They'll figure it out. So we won't take the time to show that. But I wanted to wish everybody listening tonight in this ongoing journey, and you, Gail, wondrous new experiences to recover who you are and what you once knew before you were born here. In addition, the wisdom to know what to do with it.
And it's awesome, and I'm just delighted to be able to share it with people. And I do hope you enjoy it as well, as much as I have.
thanks, Gail, for having the courage to do this.
Thank you, Scott, for doing all that you've done.
I will stop this recording now and wish everybody pleasant dreams on Earth and at night when they're out of their bodies. Bring back more. It's okay. You're safe.